Good morning, everybody. This is Eric. This is Quarantine Day 11 and the morning episode. Alright, I have a verse that maybe we don't often read. It's from Leviticus, and it's from... No, we have a co-presenter here. Hi! It's from Leviticus, chapter 11, and it's...
Yeah.
It's from the 13th verse. And these, beginning with the 13th verse and going through 18. And these you shall detest amongst the birds. They shall not be eaten. They are detestable. The eagle, the bearded vulture, the black vulture, the kite, the falcon of any kind, every raven of any kind, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, the hawk of any kind, the little owl, the cormorant, the short-eared owl, the barn owl, the tawny owl, the carrion vulture, the stork, the heron of any kind, the hoopoe, and the bat. Interesting. The bat is amongst the birds. Maybe, as you can tell, I'm reading this, just kind of reflecting on, there were these kosher rules in place for God's people, and Christians, we kind of come out of it, but these kind of had very sensible reasoning behind them. I think just the three that I've seen and seem to make a lot of sense are just nutrition, how the meat is, and if you eat something that's higher up on the food chain, it might have worse things in it for you nutritionally. Just more like metals gather in it. That's why maybe you don't eat like the meat of a great white shark versus an anchovy or something like that. The other thing is like sustainability. They talk a lot about the animals that chew their cud. Those husbandry of those animals is a lot more efficient for land use. Sheep and cows tend to not need to quite as much as horses and pigs certainly don't graze in a way that is very sustainable. They tend to rip things up a bit. So, kind of thinking on those three. Oh, sorry, the third one is the disease, the nature of disease. We've talked about trichinosis amongst pigs is a common one, but they talk about mice and rats, and rats were eaten very commonly by the Romans. You'd have like a little compost jar in front of your house, and you'd keep rats in it, and you'd eat them. From time to time, you'd put your food scraps in there, and then you'd eat the rats. People that were following these kosher customs back then didn't do that. And disease, you think about that rat sitting in a jar in front of your house, that has the potential to cause some disease problems. And here today, we think about all these diseases that have jumped from animals to people. And so the animals and how we treat them are maybe something that we want to think about. Christians, we've kind of moved past many of the Old Testament restrictions, and you can go through Hebrews and really get some of the details on why that is. But maybe it's still worth our while to kind of consider the spirit of some of these laws, why they were made. Hermeneutics, there's just a lot of, there's plenty of work that's been done and can be done. So just, again, kind of learning from this, maybe we have to think about some of the ticking time bombs. I've heard it referenced very often from physicians that, hey, if we're keeping these animals in these feedlots and pumping them full of antibiotics, is that really in the spirit of what God would want? Is that sustainable for the future? Is that good in terms of preventing disease? So I don't have any particular answers for this. It's just mainly asking questions, bringing this up. This is something that's important for us to think about going forward. Is we might have ticking time bombs with animals and our consumption of them and our husbandry and the nature of that. And these were important things to how God worked through his people, and still are. Feel free, if you're Jewish and you follow kosher laws, love your opinion on this. This is something maybe to think about. So put your comments in. Let's think about it.